there are headwinds, as we all know.
Yes.
Protectionism on the rise, tariffs, and the list goes on. So for a global business leader like you, how would you balance what you need to take care of every day, which is constantly changing, vis-a-vis the long term, which you have just beautifully illustrated?
Well, the most important is the long term, because if you don't have a direction, you go nowhere. And for that long term, you need to have your own vision of the world.
And stick to it.
And stick to it. Of course, you have to adapt, right?
Of course.
But at the end of the day, that long-term direction is the most important. I would say the biggest role of a leader is to fix a direction and to choose the right team. And then a large part, that solves a large part of the issues. But anyway, in this case, or when you look at the evolution of the world with everything you are saying, from the beginning, we saw that it was important for us to be first local everywhere in the world, because our customers want products and systems which really fit their need, and you cannot do that from remote or with one global sort of product. Number two, customers are always in a hurry, so they want their product for yesterday. So you don't get that if you manufacture remotely. So we were there again very local. And then they want innovation. And innovation is not one country innovating for all the other ones. Innovation is very local, because you try to solve very different problems in a very local manner. In the past, it was different, because maybe only a few countries had technology. But today, many countries have different sort of technology, so it's important to innovate locally. So we've built Schneider that with an ecosystem which is with a way of doing which is very local, where decisions will be made locally by local teams, R&D will be made locally, manufacturing will be done locally, and with local suppliers, so that you can operate, let's say, in China as a Chinese company, and in Europe as a European company, in India as an Indian company, in North America as a North American company. I think that makes us much more adapted to the world where we are going at the moment.
But on the other hand, we see rethinking recently, especially over the past few months, starting from 2025, of whether the earlier debates on localization as a result of segmented world, now business leaders are thinking twice. That will not work. So how do you see that? Especially these days, I also been, just for a footnote, talking to some German business leaders as well as coming from France. They're saying, you know, we have to rethink our approaches now to China, for example, the European.
Yeah, things are by nature constantly changing. I think there was probably some excess at a point in time, and people are reclaiming a certain number. When I say people, the people who design their lead or who appoint their leaders, they want probably more control over their future. I think there is also more realization that it's important to be sufficiently autonomous in a number of things. So I think people are sort of adjusting the way things should be done together. But once you say that everybody somewhere should benefit from a development of a company around the world, that people should be empowered in their region on what they have to do, and that at the same time the world should benefit from the purpose or strategy of a company with a clear mission, with a clear added value to the society, then you've got the ingredients to have a long-term strategy that then can adjust itself across a cycle of times and opinions.
I love that description. China and EU is celebrating an important occasion, anniversary this year. French, a global company like yours, headquartered in France, is extremely important in mapping out that landscape. What do you think can be the role of business this time?
Look, well, this ratio, number one, I mean, look at the map, right? China and Europe are part of the same landmass. we are occupying the two extremes of the same landmass. Look at history. The exchanges along the Silk Road are dating back to a long, long time ago. They were across the belt of seas or the road of the Silk Road, but those have been exchanges for many, many years. I mean, in the Tang Dynasty, 10% of the people living in Xi'an were not Han Chinese, right? They were coming from all over. So that exchange as
footnote, rich knowledge about China coming from Lao Zhao.
which has existed for many, many years. We have also a responsibility because, again, it's the same landmass. So the exchanges, as of today, are more and more numerous. Now you have trains going from Chongqing to Frankfurt in Europe. So it's really easy to go across. I think also we share a number of views together, right? That vision that the development should be sustainable, hence the development of green technology. We believe in institutions to sort of manage those international exchanges. So on European companies have been working in China for a long time, and Chinese companies are working in Europe for a long time. So it's important that we find the right balance in this new phase, that everybody feels that they have a place around the table. There is certainly some fear at times about Chinese export growing extremely fast in Europe and disrupting some of our industries. But at the same time, it's important to keep things open, and the dialogue open, and exchanges very transparent between our countries.
About China, a few words. We see a set of issues being churned out since last year, both about talking to important business leaders around the world by Chinese policymakers, and also opening up the market, try to streamline the market stability, encouraging private businesses, and also encourage domestic consumption, and the list goes on. Meanwhile, you see the awakening up of the appetite of Chinese consumers as reflected by movies and tourism, and this goes on. So, but to you, what is the most important thing? So you can stay the course in China, and China will remain a big gem on your world map.
Well, China, by definition, is a huge country on the world map, right? Most populous country, second world economy, 33% of the world production.
Yes.
So China is big, China is important, China is strategic. What's important, I think, is that what we said before, openness, reform, predictability, and that continuous consistency, that continuous emphasis on innovation, technology, industry, that's really important to a company like ours, right? And this is why this meeting in Beijing is important. Every year, we have that direct dialogue with government, with other companies, Chinese companies, foreign companies, and we try to make sense of the long-term direction, and we couple it with a vision of the tactical adjustment to do on the short term.
Let me go to some specific. I love go to some specific about your company and your decisions, Jean. For example, on innovation.
Yeah.
You've been mapping out your innovation prospect in so many different parts of the world. You have an cooperation with NVIDIA in the US, for example, an R&D center in China, and other things of innovation going on elsewhere in the world. How would you streamline and also make sure all these points will blossom and can be shared eventually for your business all over the world?
Well, the most important is that they prosper locally, that they are able to participate locally, number one. And then after, we connect the dots so that they can go faster because they are part of something bigger at Schneider. That's the way we do it. And we cherish partnerships. We have partnerships everywhere with multiple companies. We try to keep an open mind so that we escape to that non-invented here syndrome, which is so bad for companies, and we go faster by doing partners. You know that if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together.
It was years ago that you have already figured out, Jean, that it's not just one-way traffic, it's two-way traffic or even more when it comes to innovation.
Yep.
Not just technology coming from other parts of the world and doing manufacturing in China, but you have figured out a way of innovation here to benefits elsewhere in the world. So what do you think is the most important ways for many of the folks in Europe to understand this fundamental change that we are seeing today?
I think Europe understands it. I think people...
The policymakers understand it or the public understands it?
Everybody understands it. And people are open. People are open to collaboration. Look at the number of people who come to visit China, right? Look at people like me who came to work here to really help at the beginning of the opening, right?
Since
you remember those
since
times?
the 1980s.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we have known the good times and the hard times in China, together with Chinese people. So I think people have respect for everything, the fast development, the cultures, history, and the hard working of Chinese people. And people are ready to work together. It has to be done with clear rules, with, as you say, the two-way street, which is balanced. And every year we have to reassess what makes it balanced and satisfactory for all countries. But again, we are part of the same world, same planet. We are part of the same continent on both sides. And there are plenty of things that can be done together.
Jean-Pascal, always a pleasure. Thank you for your pragmatic and philosophical approach.
I try not to be pragmatic here.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.